Hi guys, Sandy here. So let's imagine this. You have just received the wonderful news that you've been hired for that position you've wanted so badly. Maybe it's your first job. Maybe you've been unemployed for a while and this is your big break. Or maybe you've quit your old job and traded up. Whatever your situation is, you are pumped, happy, motivated, excited. Things are really looking up for you. And then you go in on your first day and your boss is a total jerk. Or maybe they only show their real colors after the first week or the first month. It doesn't matter. You've just realized you have made a big mistake and you're ready to pack your bags and rage quit. And quite honestly, this is one of the worst things that can happen to you at a new job. You start out with so much hope and enthusiasm. The interview went great. They offered you everything you've asked for and you're thinking, yeah, I took this huge, brave step to improve my life and it was totally worth it. And then you start working and things go from wonderful to awful like that. Bosses and managers are supposed to exist to provide you with everything you need to thrive at work, not to make your life miserable. But unfortunately, more often than not, that's what ends up happening. I had this one boss who told me the minute I walked in the door on my very first day something like, "Forget about everything they told you at that job interview. I don't care what your contract says. You work for me now and I make my own rules." And my heart just sank. It was a big company and the best job I had ever had at the time. And this guy had just ruined it all for me. And still, I thought, give him a shot. He's probably just playing badass, to get people to respect him. And maybe it won't be that bad once you get to know him. Well, it didn't get any better, and I never really got to know him much better either because I quit after a month or so. So I can't really imagine what it must be like for those who don't get to quit when finding they were essentially screwed over. So, in order to prevent that from happening to you, I am going to tell you everything you need to know to spot a jerk of a boss from a mile away. Preferably before you accept that position, if they're at all present during the process, of course. Which I guess is my number one tip actually. If the person you will be working for, your boss or your manager, isn't present for any of the stages of the selection process, odds are the company doesn't want you to know them before you accept the position, which in my experience is a major red flag because it may mean they're jerks and they don't want you to know it before it's too late. Another major red flag is the complete opposite actually. When you go on an interview and your prospective boss or manager is too nice. Do you know what I mean? When they are so flattering and accommodating and pleasant, it just sounds fake, or too much. Well, it probably is. It's one thing to want to make a good first impression, of course. It's another to trick you and tell you what you want to hear and make promises they have no intention of keeping. No matter how much you click with someone, there is such a thing as being too nice, particularly in a professional setting. In 2020, Resume Lab conducted a survey on what makes a bad leader, and the results are very telling, if unsurprising. A staggering 72% of those surveyed were treated rudely or disrespectfully by a boss. 70% were criticized in front of their coworkers, and 83% of them felt bad about it, naturally. But 75% also said they didn't quit because they needed the money. 73% said that, like me, they hoped things would improve. But they never really do they? Luckily, most aren't willing to put up with it for very long. Only 10% admitted to working for a bad boss for longer than 5 years. 63% could only handle doing it for up to 2 years at most. Now, almost 70% of respondents had a boss who was always right, which is my third red sign. Because if they're always right, odds are you will always be wrong. Like in any relationship in life, dealing with someone who doesn't take any responsibility or ownership of their mistakes is something you will want to avoid at all costs. It's even worse when it's someone in a position of power. Here's another red flag: when a boss or a manager does lots of talking and very little listening at the interview. Because odds are that's what you will be facing when you're working for them. Those are usually the type of management who go on about themselves, during the interview, all they've achieved, their background, etc., etc. One thing bad bosses also love doing during interviews is taking credit for everything, which according to a Bamboo HR survey is the worst thing a boss can do as far as employees go. And again, not surprising, right? And they usually do this while bad-mouthing their employees. I mean, how much redder could this flag be? Next red flag: when they're interviewing you but paying very little attention. They're looking at their phone, some will even take phone calls during it, true story. They're dealing with all the paperwork, whatever it is. anything other than giving you their attention, asking you the right questions, and listening to your answers is no bueno. Also, it's not a very good sign when they are broad when explaining what you're supposed to do, Major bad signs to watch out for when they tell you you will be wearing all sorts of hats, or that it isn't set in stone yet what you'll do and it's best if you just start and they'll decide as you go along. Run away immediately. Okay, the next flag is when they show no respect for your time. And this can mean things like arriving late and not apologizing, or rescheduling at the last minute, for example, or keeping you for way longer than what was agreed. All things you can expect to go through if you take that position. And of course, typical jerk boss behavior when they micromanage everything you do. And this should be easy enough to spot during recruitment when they're telling you about the work you'll be doing, when they not only don't trust you to make any decisions or work independently, but they also try to keep tabs of everything you do and everywhere you go. When everything you do goes through them and you get no access to any information or any other people. They keep everything close to their vest and filter every little bit of access you have. Pretty much like you're a child at school. Do you remember how that felt? So tell me, after all this, do you feel better prepared to spot a jerk boss? Are you confident you will never get caught in their web ever again? I certainly hope so. Now, before you go, I strongly advise you watch this video about how now is the right time to quit your job if you're unhappy about it, of course. Now that you can tell a jerk boss apart from a good one, it will be much safer to make that change, right?